The assembly will now come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Backus. Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblyman Carter. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblyman Geelong. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblyman De Silva. Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblywoman Gallant. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Gorlow. Assemblyman Gray. Assemblyman Gurr. Assemblyman Hafen. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblyman Hibbets. Assemblywoman Howdigi. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblyman Koenig. Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. Assemblywoman Marzola. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Brittany Miller. Assemblyman C.H. Miller. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Assemblywoman Mosca. Assemblywoman Newby. Assemblyman Nguyen. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblyman Orentlicker. Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblywoman Taylor. Assemblywoman Thomas. Assemblywoman Torres. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Urick. Speaker Yeager.
Here. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect we have 41 members present, 1 absent excused.
The record shall so reflect we have 41 members present, 1 absent excused. That means we do have a quorum. Would members of the assembly and guests please rise? This afternoon we have the prayer by Chaplain Craig Swope from First Christian Church here in Carson City.
Good afternoon. Let's pray. Father, on this day, we cannot help but think of sacrifice, the sacrifice of those who had dreams and had plans, but instead saw their dreams and plans cut short. Because of their service and sacrifice, we can dream and we can make plans. And as we approach the final days of this session, most of us will see a measure of sacrifice, things we would like to see happen that don't happen. Things we don't want to see take place become reality. May we keep our perspective. May we remember, not only on this day, but on all days, that there are hundreds of Nevadans who sacrificed all, and each one of us is the beneficiary of those sacrifices, and we thank you for their service and their legacy. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Friday, May
Assemblywoman
26th.
Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with the reading of the journal and allow the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make any necessary corrections and additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Members, we're going to go next to order business 15, remarks from the floor, and then we will come back to our other business. So if folks have order business 15, remarks from the floor, Assemblywoman Newby, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my great honor today to have the proclamation for the Assembly to honor Ms. Carol Ann Velardo. Many of you may have known her. She was a real institution here in the legislature and had just an encyclopedic knowledge of all things taxes and state government. She moved to Nevada in 1971 and became involved in the Nevada Taxpayers Association in 1986 and then became president in 1989 and served this great state in that capacity for over 30 years. So as a young lobbyist, I truly enjoyed her and her kindness. She was always patient and always willing to impart her knowledge about all things Nevada to all of us, especially those women paving the way. And so I'm very thankful for her and very excited by this proclamation and the festivities later today to honor her life. Thank you.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm joined today by my aunt and uncle, Tim and Sue Olivas. They're visiting us from California. They are doing a road trip across the state and are planning to head out on Highway 50 after this to see some of the beautiful country that we have to offer. They are big companions of me and my partner as we go backpacking, river rafting, and on other adventures. And this is their first time visiting Nevada State Capitol. So will you please join me in making them feel welcome?
Assemblywoman Gallant.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. I would like Maddox Gallant to stand up, please. So today I have Maddox Gallant with me, and unfortunately, he's not going to be with us on Thursday. So he is turning 8 on Thursday. And since I have him here today, I was hoping that we could all wish him a very happy birthday. And he does not like to be made the center of attention, so I told him I would keep it very quick. And also present you with this, which is a present from your dad and brother and me. So can everybody wish him a happy birthday? Thank you.
Assemblywoman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, my guest is Larissa Gaete. I just love the way that's Italian, for those of you who don't know. She's a dedicated and ambitious college student at the University of Nevada, Reno, GoPac. She is pursuing a major in computer science engineering and a minor in business. She exhibits a strong drive and is currently engaged in the process of joining the Nevada Air National Guard so that she can enhance her expertise in computer science as she serves her country. She's also preparing for the ASVAB examination. Larissa is actively involved in managing her growing notary public business alongside her studies. Her commitment to expanding her skill set and simultaneously her entrepreneurial opportunities just exemplifies her proactive approach towards personal and professional growth. Additionally, she is the daughter of the best attaché in the Nevada State Legislature, who does an amazing job for me. Her mother is Norma Kia. So please help her feel welcome in the People's House.
Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a guest with us today. His name is Mr. Franz Rasp, and he is with us from Germany as an exchange student. He is part of the Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange Program, which means he actually had to interview with his representative back in Germany and get approved, and so he is a fantastic young gentleman. He spent the last year in Reno, and he's just finishing up his tour, so he wanted to come and check out the legislature. He thought he was going to sit up in the gallery, but I told him, if you're here, you got to do the whole thing. So he is here on the floor, so please welcome him to our chamber.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you will stand. Today with me, I have our most excellent Committee on Education Secretary, Fumi Shetty, and her son, Shayun Shetty. Fumi earned her bachelor's degree in communication studies from UNR, nobody's perfect, in 2021, and was honored with the Henry Albert Senior Public Service Award for her work with nonprofits, empowered youth, and precision teaching. There's so many so this is what it does. Empowered youth uses precision teaching, direct instruction, and behavior analysis to help underserved youth achieve 1-year growth in a subject area with 40 hours of instruction. That's really impressive. Her specialization is reading instruction, as she has worked in this capacity, as well as a registered behavior technician in numerous elementary schools across Washoe County School District. She's finishing up her master's degree in exceptional student education and behavior analysis through the University of West Florida remote program, and plans to earn her doctorate in education policy through American University remote program. Her dream is to make a positive impact on public education with focus on effective and efficient evidence-based instruction. Her son, Shayun, is a 14-year-old, and he is an 8th grader at Coral Academy of Science Middle School in Reno. He plans to attend his freshman year at CAS High School and then attend TMCC High School, earning his associate's degree and high school diploma at the same time. After receiving several years of math intervention from Empowered Youth, he now helps his classmates with their math questions and is considering becoming a teacher when he grows up. Will you please make them feel welcome in the People's House?
Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, I have the honor of having the best attaché with me sitting, Chris Molnar, who's been working with me. This is my second session. I want to take a moment and talk about her son, Sean Casey, a native Nevada, like his mother, graduated from Carson High School and earned a bachelor's and a master's degree at UNR. When he was 18, Sean enlisted in the Nevada Air National Guard. He spent 2 years in the Air Guard and another 18 years in the Nevada Army National Guard, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. While serving a year in Iraq during Operation Iraqi Freedom, Sean volunteered to lead the 140th MP Liaison Detachment of the Guard, nicknamed the Dirty Dozen. Sean took immense pride in his service with the Guard. It was his life. Sean passed away last month, and his daughter, 2 brothers, their family, and his mother miss him terribly. On this Memorial Day, please help me honor all of those who served in our military and Sean Casey. Thank you.
Assemblyman Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A couple of items today. Ladies, if you please stand. First of all, I'd like to introduce you guys to 3 of the McKay Muckers women's competition team. They're the only 3 to be with us here today. And some of you guys might recognize them from the event we had last night at the Sutro Tunnel doing the demo. They don't look anything today like they did last night. They, like most of us, we clean up pretty well when we decide to. But they've got a very special accomplishment with their team. So the 3 we have here with us today are Jillian Hammonds, Carly Boley, okay, and Kayla Anderson. Not present are Katie Nichols and Natalie Rubio. We're recognizing them for first place overall in the women's division with first place wins in gold panning, recording the fastest time of all competing, jackleg, single jack drilling, and jack stand placing, second in mucking and swede saw, and a third place finish in traditional land surveying at the 45th International Collegiate Mining Competition held in Western Australia, March 2023. These girls kick butt. So it's a real pleasure having these 3 here today. And if you guys could all welcome them, and if you get a chance on the way out, tell them congratulations. They earned it, and they worked hard to get there. Mr. Speaker, order business 15.
Order business 15.
Thank you, sir. I had prepared remarks. I'm not gonna use them. Today is Memorial Day, and we'd be very remiss if we didn't recognize that. First started off as Decoration Day and the tradition of decorating grave sites of veterans from the Civil War, May 30th, 1868. And as we know, it has progressed into something that the holiday that we have today. Most people view it as a 3-day weekend, but we need to stop, take stock, and realize that every freedom we have today is because these guys sacrificed themselves for our freedoms and our ability to live in this country. Right or left, it doesn't matter. They all fought and sacrificed for us. When they would look at each other, they wouldn't see a political party, they wouldn't see a color, they would see a fellow brother in arms. And I was so honored, and I think of, to serve with these men, to include Sean Casey. I did know Sean, and it hit me hard when I heard about him. So we, there's some troops die in combat, others die years later. There's the wounds that you don't see, and so we got to keep those guys in mind too. I lost my cousin in Afghanistan 7 years ago. They're on a short mission. So if I were to take a poll in here, I would be willing to bet every single person in this building, not just on this floor, but in this building, has known or had a relative that was, that made that sacrifice for our freedoms. So please just stop to remember what today really is like, really is for, and why we do celebrate it and recognize it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Assemblyman De Silva.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I want to introduce two of my guests here today. This is Vilma and Carlos. Vilma moved here to the United States from Mexico, Carlos from Nicaragua, and today they're two of our local Carson City business owners who are making our economy vibrant and making Nevada strong. They've been living here for 20 years and never have been in this building. They were always scared to show up, but I told them that this is the people's house and that they will always be welcome here. So please let us make them feel welcome to the people's house. Thank you. Also, Mr. Speaker, I rise today to honor Memorial Day and the brave men and women who have fallen in service of the United States. Today, we remember all those who paid the ultimate price for our nation, for our freedom, and for us. On Memorial Day, we honor their selfless sacrifice. Every one of them had so much to live for: a mom or a dad, a brother or a sister, a son or a daughter. And they still chose to lay down their lives for our country. Most people will spend Memorial Day with family and friends, grilling in their backyards or sitting by a pool. But it is important to not lose sight of who and what this holiday is all about. Many of us who answered the call to serve were lucky enough to make it back home. Some of us were injured or bore scars that cannot be seen, which is why it's critical to fund veteran services. But we made it back. But all of us served alongside someone who wasn't as lucky, who didn't make it back home, who is no longer with us, who left behind grieving family and mourning friends, but a heroic legacy. Today we honor them, we remember them, and we make sure that their sacrifice was not in vain. And I personally want to commemorate the sacrifices of three of my own friends. John Lucock from Durango High School, class of 2003, Jesse Jaime from Chaparral High School, class of 2001, and my own platoon mate, Richard Perez Jr., Coronado High School, class of 2003. They all gave their lives in Iraq in service of our country. And at this time, I would ask you all to commemorate this service through a moment of silence.
Thank you, Assemblyman. We will observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, seeing no other order of business 15 at the moment, we will go to order of business 4, reports of standing committees.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Ways and Means, to which were referred Assembly Bills 15, 328, 461, 462, 512, has had the same order consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. And your Committee on Ways and Means, to which was re-referred Assembly Bill 345, has had the same order consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass. And your Committee on Ways and Means, to which were re-referred Assembly Bills 46, 147, 239, 277, 299, 389, 399, has had the same order consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass as amended, and your Committee on Ways and Means, to which was re-referred Assembly Bill 140, has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass as amended, and your Committee on Ways and Means, to which were re-referred Assembly Bills 148, 151, 257, 281, has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass as amended, and your Committee on Ways and Means, to which was re-referred Senate Bill 35, has had the similar consideration and begs leave to put the same back. The recommendation do pass as amended. Danielle Monroe Moreno, Chair.
Order of Business 7, messages from the Senate.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, May 26, 2023. To the Honorable the Assembly, I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed Assembly Bills 11, 17, 44, 91, 97, 107, 120, 124, 159, 177, 183, 275, 309, 342, 350, 398. And I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed Assembly Bill 17, Assembly Joint Resolutions 1-5, Assembly Joint Resolution number 1 of the 81st session. And I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day adopted Assembly Concurrent Resolution number 5. And I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate amended and on this day passed it as amended Assembly Bill 32, Amendment 765, Assembly Bill 33, Amendment 687, Assembly Bill 51, Amendment 713, Assembly Bill 55, Amendment 565, Assembly Bill 74, Amendments 558, 746, Assembly Bill 75, Amendment 728, Assembly Bill 143, Amendment 688, Assembly Bill 175, Amendments 585, 789, Assembly Bill 191, Amendment 616, Assembly Bill 220, Amendment 712, 735, Assembly Bill 250, Amendment 644, Assembly Bill 334, Amendments 570, 740, Assembly Bill 356, Amendment 608, Assembly Bill 405, Amendment 564, Assembly Bill 408, Amendment 655, 722, Assembly Bill 423, Amendments 560, 674, Assembly Bill 432, Amendments 572, 779, Assembly Bill 444, Amendments 676, 730, Assembly Bill 465, Amendment 747, and respectfully request your Honorable Body to concur in said amendments. And I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed Senate Bill 387. Chair Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate. Senate Chamber, May 27, 2023. To the Honorable the Assembly, I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed as amended Senate Bills 36, 45, 54, 71, 145, 216, 226, 266, 307, 389, and I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed as amended Senate Bill 274, and I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day concurred in Assembly Amendment 646 to Senate Bill 109, Assembly Amendment 647 to Senate Bill 146, Assembly Amendment 574 to Senate Bill 172, Assembly Amendment 716 to Senate Bill 192, Assembly Amendment 682 to Senate Bill 249, Assembly Amendment 667 to Senate Bill 269, Assembly Amendment 651 to Senate Bill 280, Assembly Amendment 635 to Senate Bill 289, Assembly Amendment 547 to Senate Bill 422, Assembly Amendment 592 to Senate Bill 423. Sherry Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Order of Business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bills.
Senate Bill 36, introduced by the Committee on Judiciary, enacting criminal procedure requiring the Division of Parole and Probation of the Department of Public Safety to make a pre-sentence investigation and report to the court that includes a psychosexual evaluation in certain circumstances, requiring the Division to arrange a psychosexual evaluation in certain circumstances when the defendant and prosecuting attorney make a joint request, requiring certain defendants to be certified as not representing a high risk to reoffend before the court may grant probation to or suspend the sentence of the defendant, making an appropriation and providing the matters properly named thereto. Senate Bill 45, introduced by the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services, enacting the Medicaid, establishing the amount of the personal needs allowance provided to certain recipients of Medicaid who reside in facilities for skilled nursing, authorizing certain expenditures, making an appropriation and providing other matters properly named thereto. Senate Bill 54, introduced by the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, enacting to elections, requiring the Secretary of State State to prepare, maintain, and publish an elections procedures manual, requiring county and city clerks to comply with the most recent version of such a manual, requiring the Secretary of State to provide training to certain elections officials related to elections procedures, providing for the attendance of certain elections officials at such training, making an appropriation, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 71, introduced by the Senate Committee on Education, enacting to education, renaming the Nevada State Teacher Recruitment and Retention Advisory Task Force, revising the membership of the task force to include education support professionals, revising the powers and duties of the task force, making an appropriation, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 145, introduced by Senators Lang et al., enacting to employ misclassification, authorizing the Labor Commissioner to collect investigative costs, revising provisions relating to the communication between offices of certain state agencies of information relating to employee misclassification, revising the administrative penalties that may be imposed for certain conduct relating to employee misclassification, eliminating the task force on employee misclassification, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 216, introduced by the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, enacting to elections, requiring each county and city clerk to schedule certain meetings with each Indian tribe located in whole or in part within the county or city, requiring the Secretary of State to allow a member of an Indian tribe who resides on an Indian reservation or Indian colony to use the system of approved electronic transmission to register to vote and request and cast a ballot, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 226, introduced by Senator Canizaro, Assemblyman Yeager, enacting to Public Works, providing a declaration of legislative intent regarding the payment of prevailing wages on public works projects, providing that certain projects require the payment of prevailing wages, revising the definition of public work, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 266, introduced by Senators Pezina et al., Assemblyman O'Neill et al., enacting to gaming, excluding certain portions of entry fees paid to participate in certain contests or tournaments from the gross revenue of certain gaming licensees for the purpose of calculating gaming license fees for certain other purposes, revising requirements relating to the filing of certain information concerning foreign gaming within the Nevada Gaming Control Board, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 274, introduced by Senator Daley, enacting to industrial insurance, requiring the administrator of the Division of Industrial Relations to the Department of Business and Industry to post certain information on the internet website of the division, increasing the amount of certain penalties for certain violations of the Nevada Industrial Insurance Act or the Nevada Occupational Diseases Act, revising provisions relating to the imposition and payment of benefit penalties, revising certain requirements for certain investigations conducted by the administrator, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 307, introduced by Senator Spearman, enacting to offenders, defining certain terms relating to the housing of offenders, requiring the Director of the Department of Corrections to adopt certain regulations relating to solitary confinement, prohibiting the department from placing an offender in solitary confinement under certain circumstances, providing that an offender is entitled to certain privileges while placed in solitary confinement, requiring the department to ensure that an offender placed in solitary confinement receives a daily health and wellness check, providing procedures for the removal of an offender from solitary confinement, requiring certain training for staff who work in units used for solitary confinement, requiring the department to submit a report concerning the use of solitary confinement to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary or the Legislature, limiting the number of days that an offender may be placed in disciplinary segregation, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 387, introduced by Senator Pezina, enacting state personnel system, revising provisions relating to the classification plan for all positions in the classified service of the state, and providing other matters properly in there too. Senate Bill 389, introduced by Senator Scheibel and Sievers-Gansert, enacting to crimes, revising provisions governing crimes relating to facilitating sex trafficking, requiring the preparation and submission of a comprehensive biennial report concerning human trafficking in the state, revising certain requirements for compensation from the Fund for the Compensation of Victims of Crime, revising provisions governing the contingency account for victims of human trafficking, making an appropriation, providing penalties, and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all bills except Senate Bill 266 be referred to the committees as listed on the Senate Bills Introductions list dated May 29th, 2023.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 266 be referred to your Committee on Ways and Means.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. That will take us to Order of Business 11, second reading and amendment.
Assembly Bill 15, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act relating to district judges, prescribing the manner for increasing the annual base salary of district judges and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 328, introduced by Assemblyman Watts et al., Senators Wynn et al. An act making an appropriation to the Immigration Clinic at the William S. Boyd School of Law of the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, for the purpose of providing pro bono legal services relating to immigration law and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
I have an amendment. I have Amendment 801, proposed by Assemblyman Watts.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt amendment number 801 to Assembly Bill 328.
Assemblyman Watts has moved for the adoption of amendment number 801 to Assembly Bill 328. Seeing no remarks, all those in favor of adopting the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. The amendment is adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
There are none.
The bill is ordered reprinted and grossed into general file.
Assembly Bill 461, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act relating to Public Employees Retirement System, creating the position of Chief Administrative Analyst as a member of the executive staff of the system and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 3, end of Section 3, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 469, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act making an appropriation to restore the balance in the stale claims account and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 462, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act relating to the State Board of Parole Commissioners, requiring the chair of the board to appoint an executive director of the board, requiring the chair to delegate certain powers and duties to the executive director, revising provisions relating to the executive secretary of the board, and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 5, end of Section 5, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 512, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act making appropriations to and authorizing the expenditure of money by the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services of the Department of Health and Human Services for certain information technology upgrades and projects and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 6, end of Section 6, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file.
Assembly Bill 469, introduced by the Committee on Ways and Means and Act making an appropriation to restore the balance in the stale claims account and providing other matters properly relating thereto. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1, Section 2, end of Section 2, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
The bill is ordered to general file. Assemblywoman Howdigi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 8.
Order of Business 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill 35 be taken from its place on general file and be placed at the top of general file.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. That will take us to Order of Business 12, General File and Third Reading.
Senate Bill 35, introduced by the Committee on Health and Human Services. An act relating to controlled substances, establishing the crimes of trafficking and high-level trafficking in any mixture which contains illicitly manufactured fentanyl, establishing the crime of intentional misrepresentation of a fentanyl product, requiring each state and local law enforcement agency and the State Sentencing Commission to submit certain reports to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary, requiring to the extent that money is available the establishment of certain programs to provide certain offenders or prisoners who have a substance use disorder with medicated assisted treatment, requiring the Joint Interim Standing Committee on the Judiciary to conduct an interim study concerning certain matters related to forensic laboratories, providing penalties, and providing otherwise properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1. Section 16, end of Section 16, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Are there any remarks on Senate Bill 35? Seeing none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Would anyone like to change their vote? The Chief Clerk will record the vote. There are 31 ayes, 10 nays, 1 absent excused. The bill having received a constitutional majority declared passed and ordered transmitted to the Senate.
Assembly Bill 243, introduced by the Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, an act relating to legislative affairs, making various changes relating to legislative interim committees and presiding officers of those committees, revising provisions relating to the Joint Interim Standing Committees, revising the deadline to submit an application to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Education to serve on the Nevada State Teacher Recruitment and Retention Advisory Task Force, repealing the requirement that the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services review certain regulations, revising provisions relating to legislative committee members and staff regulated by the Nevada Lobbying Disclosure and Regulation Act and the Nevada Financial Disclosure Act, and providing otherwise properly thereto. The people of the state of Nevada represented in Senate and Assembly do enact as follows. Section 1, end of Section 1. Section 52, end of Section 52, end of bill.
Are there any amendments to Section 1 or the bill as a whole?
There are none.
Are there any remarks? Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in opposition to AB 243. Order of Business 15, please.
Order Business 15.
When this bill was first heard in Leg Ops, which I don't serve on, but when it was first introduced on March 16th, it was a 9-page bill. On May 26th, we had an amendment on our desk here in the chamber, which increased the size of the bill to 48 pages. I'm particularly concerned about the dissolution of the Public Lands Interim Subcommittee. To give a little bit of context, I've served on natural resources and public lands since 2019 in the interim, and we all know that the state is 110,000 square miles plus. My district represents almost a third of that, 6 counties, and considering that our federal lands own about 87% of the state, having a subcommittee on public lands, I think, is vital. It gives an opportunity to the local communities. We would meet in various parts of the states, from Ely to Pyramid Lake to Boulder City to Caliente, and it gave, in the interim, the tribes would come out, the community members in those rural communities who can't make it to Carson, who cannot make committee meetings in person in Grant Sawyer, and it also gave us as legislators an opportunity to go on field trips, to go out and see what the mastication programs of the junipers were in White Pine County. It gave us opportunities to visit mine sites, to visit historic designations that were being considered. So the dissolution recommendation in this amendment, I stand in strong opposition to. I understand it was a cleanup bill, but it has become way more than that. And so I would urge this body to please vote no on AB 243. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Any further remarks? Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of Assembly Bill 243, Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
Thank you very much. I appreciate very much the comments and concerns raised by my colleague from District 32. However, as the chair of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources, and that was also involved in coordinating some of the activities of the subcommittee on public lands, there were a lot of logistical issues that arrived with the having both the 8-member Joint Interim Standing Committee as well as a smaller subcommittee that had only 2 assembly members, 2 senators, and then representative from local and tribal government. So in conversations, I think we decided that the best way to move forward is just to have the Committee on Natural Resources moving forward. I do want to note a couple things. One, the entire statutory charge originally given to the Subcommittee on Public Lands remains in place in statute, and that charge has been transferred fully to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources. So the issues and scope is not being lost in any way. 2, I do appreciate this opportunity to put on record before the entire body that in conversations we are going to maintain the tradition that existed with public lands, which really was our interim Natural Resources Committee before we reorganized the interim. And so there is a commitment that we will continue to have meetings with this expanded committee and alternates, which are some of the things that have been modified and I think improved through this bill, to ensure that we're actually getting more legislators out into our rural communities to learn about issues of importance. So while I completely understand and respect the concerns that have been raised by colleagues, at the end of the day, I think that this is going to strengthen our interim process and continue to get members exposure to all the different communities in our state and the issues related to public lands and natural resources issues. So I'd urge my colleagues to vote in support.
Thank you, Assemblyman. Are there further remarks? Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order of Business 15.
I have to be honest, I was on the fence when, well, not even on the fence. I was a hard no on this bill when I first looked at the amendment, but I do appreciate the conversations that we've had and the clarification given by my colleague from the South. I will be bird dogging this committee over the next interim to make sure that the intent is exactly what it is what was just stated, because I do think this is vitally important for the state of Nevada, not just for the state of Nevada on what we do, but also federally. The Public Lands Committee has made many recommendations over the last few decades to the United States Congress. So I will be in support and be watching to make sure that it turns out the way we hope it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. Are there further remarks on Assembly Bill 243? Seeing none, the Chief Clerk will open the roll. Would anyone like to change their vote? The Chief Clerk will record the vote. There are 34 ayes, 7 nays, 1 absent excused. The bill having received a constitutional majority declared passed and ordered transmitted to the Senate. Assemblywoman Howdeggy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 8.
Order of Business 8.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that all bills on general file be taken from their place on general file and be placed on the calendar of the next legislative day. General file of the next legislative day.
Assemblywoman Howdeggy has moved that all remaining bills on general file be taken from their place on general file and be placed on general file for the next legislative day. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under Order Business 13, unfinished business of the preceding day, there being no objection, the Speaker and Chief Clerk will sign Assembly Bills 11, 17, 44, 91, 97, 107, 120, 124, 159, 177, 183, 275, 291, 309, 342, 350, 398, as well as Assembly Joint Resolutions 1 and 5 of this session, and Assembly Joint Resolution 1 of the 81st session, Assembly Concurrent Resolution 5, Senate Bills 113, 159, 251, 302, 323, 393, 429, and Senate Joint Resolution 7. That takes us back to Order of Business 15, remarks from the floor. Would anyone else like to give remarks from the floor this afternoon? Assemblywoman Howdy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before we adjourn today, I would like to invite the body to join us at 1 p.m. outside, so upon the adjournment of floor, for the Remembrance event. You heard my colleague from the South speak some lovely words about Miss Carol Villardo, and we will be having a plaque ceremony. There has been a tree planted in her honor with a boulder, and we will be hearing our 4 leaders speak and share some words about Miss Villardo, so please join us while we place the plaque on her remembrance tree. Thank you. Seeing no other business before us, Mr. Speaker, I move that we stand adjourned until Tuesday, May 30th at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
Assemblywoman Howdy has moved that the Assembly stand adjourned until Tuesday, May 30th, 2023 at the hour of 11:30 a.m. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.